I saw Gary's butt walk behind you when we
He's
were
got such a
recording.
cute little butt. Little pig
I
butt.
didn't hear him at all, though.
That's good. Yeah. No,
He
he's standing right here. He's like, the door is cracked. I don't quite fit through it, lady. Can you open it?
Ozzy does that too. Like, he'll just stand by the open door, but that dog knows how to open doors. Every morning, he
Mm.
goes up to my son's room, jumps on the door handle, and opens it. So it's like, what's happening in this brain that
I'm
you
pretty
can?
sure, like, the door is cracked this much. I'm pretty sure he
just
could put his little pig nose through and get through the door,
or
but instead
use
he's
his
just standing
paw.
there. He's just standing there, like, trying to open it with his brain.
You know
You
what?
know,
Maybe he doesn't even notice that you come and open it for him. So he
he
like
just thinks he
he's like
thinks he's
if
opening it with his
if
mind.
he stands there.
He thinks he's opening it with his mind. Really, it's just me. I mean, these dogs, we didn't get them because they're smart, you
We
know?
did not. We did not, but they are cute.
Oh, Gary. Okay.
Okay.
Who-
Welcome to Supercharged by AI, a podcast by AI Portland. I am Megan Notarte. I am co-founder of AI Portland. I am joined with the beautiful, the intelligent, the illustrious Nicole Moores.
I don't know if I can live up to that. Thank you. I'm Nicole Moores, also co-founder of AI Portland.
We oh my gosh, we have a cool episode for you today. But before, I was talking to a friend this morning and they were like, Megan, y'all have been kind of quiet. And she was like, I know your life isn't quiet, but like, what's going on with AI Portland? And I was like, oh, it's summer.
Yeah. And are we quiet? We have so much going on, it feels like.
I know, but you know, like we in the
I
summer.
think I know what it is. We didn't
What
have
is
a
it?
party. We had
didn't
no
have
party.
a party.
That's what it is. People think we're quiet because we didn't throw a huge bash.
True. We did have a really cool event at Migration, which arguably a party.
It was party. I partied.
I had a great time.
Yeah.
It was super fun. But yes, we didn't have like our I don't know,
Summer
like
soiree.
summer soiree was on hiatus. Who knows? Who knows what the future holds? But also like we don't do a lot of content stuff in the summer because if you know Portland folks, if it is not rainy and gray, people are wanting to be anywhere but inside.
Yeah, 100%. They
So it is
are
hard.
out.
It's hard to
Yeah.
organize things that get people inside during, and I don't know, we're not like outdoor people, but you have been talking about summer camp a lot.
I have, yes, because my daughter, she went to summer camp for the first time this year, and dropped her off. I was like so jealous. So AI Portland summer camp might be a thing in the
Oh my
future.
gosh. Can you imagine? What would that even be like? Could a robot come to summer camp?
I don't know, but I in my mind it is glorious. It is
It's actually no technology at all.
no, but it will satisfy all my, childhood wants and dreams of going to summer camp.
So yeah, like not a lot of content stuff happening, but a lot of socializing and meeting up with folks and networking. But that is changing, y'all. There is a lot on the horizon going into fall and the end of this year. So definitely keep an eye on Meetup and Luma and our website, which if you haven't, can we talk about it?
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, we got a whole new website and it is very cool.
Yes.
Nicole built us a new
I
website.
did. I made it. Me and my friend AI made the website. And I think I'm going to write a case study because there were some interesting takeaways for me. I try to use as much AI as possible. Within reason, I'm a designer and a builder. So it was an interesting process just being like, I'm going to give myself a constraint of using AI.
Yeah.
And there were some things that were awesome. There were some things that were not. So maybe a little case study for our new website.
Yes. It's like on the back end, it's really interesting. So I hope we get to share that as well. We were
Yeah.
using a tool before that was fine. Like both Nicole and I are technical folks. Like we can build things, but also every time it was like, oh my God, why is this so hard? Now it's not. Now
No,
it's
it's
easy.
easy.
It's wonderful and it looks really cool. And anyway, our events are on there. So definitely keep an eye because lots of stuff getting added to the calendar. We have 2 events in September. We are partnering with some folks at University of Portland on a 6 lecture series like about dialogue with AI. Lots of different things about how to think about how we um how we work with AI and think about it. I don't know. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this, Nicole, but it's really cool. And go look at our website.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. It's gonna be awesome for sure. We have our field trip.
Talk about the field trip. Oh my gosh.
We're all going to get together and get on a bus, a school bus, and go on a field trip to OSU to their robotics and AI lab. There'll be lunch and our friends at OSU are putting together a bunch of interesting programming for us for the day, and then we'll take the bus back. It'll be really fun.
There might be bus snacks.
Also, AI Portland t-shirt. So
That's
we
right.
all
If you
can matchy match if you want. You don't have
you know,
to.
we
That
might
won't be
make every
required.
no, but we might make everyone like hold onto a rope when we're walking through, OSU's like we stay together. You know what I mean?
I was thinking about it. I'm like 100% going to bring a clipboard and keep roll. I have to keep track of everyone.
I was made for this moment because I just got done running the boosters at the high school for the music program, wherein I would go on field trips and provide snacks and make sure everyone's in the right spot and all of that stuff. So like
we can't leave any AI Portland people behind.
we
So we're
cannot
just
leave
gonna
them
have to make
behind.
sure.
Yeah, gotta do roll
It's gonna be
call.
really
It's gonna be
fun.
really great. And then lots of stuff going into November as well. So if you thought we were quiet, be prepared to hear a lot from us. Let's preview our conversation with Kelsey.
So Kelsey knew. She works for a boutique small recruiting agency here in town called Mainz Brady Group. She had so much wisdom and advice and just very valuable things to share with anyone who may be in the current job market seeking a role.
I think we didn't mention this with her, but is an ongoing thing that you and I talk about this job market, which is the things my dad told me in the year 2000 are still true, and
They
maybe
are.
even more true than they were 5 years ago.
They are. Yeah.
And I mean, we talk about the components of that, like networking, building relationships, keeping those warm. But like, I was thinking about that as she was talking. I was like, it's the same stuff, y'all. And like, we want it to be all tech and we just like, we don't have to do that stuff. But like, we do. We have to do
We
it.
do. We do.
People to people. It's still people to people.
Do people really want to do that? They just want to like submit my resume and like,
Yes.
I don't know. Yeah. I
Right? Like,
guess.
wouldn't that be great?
I
That would be great.
guess.
That would
Yeah.
be great. I
But
mean,
that doesn't work. I
it
mean,
doesn't work.
TLDR, that doesn't work. Stop doing that. Like, you're
Yeah.
wasting your time. You are screaming into a void.
Yeah.
You do have
It's,
to talk to people and make relationships.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's another AI Portland supercharged by AI podcast theme, which is like all this technology, all this AI, and like, bro, it's still people. Still building relationships with other people. It's still
Yep.
talking to people you don't know. Like,
Yep.
and these tools can help us in that, and they can help prepare us for those conversations and stuff. But it is still, it is still that. And
It is.
honestly, that makes me happy. You know?
Yeah.
Does it not make you
People.
happy? You had
Yeah.
no
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a fan of humans. I'm a fan of humans, you know?
most of the time.
most humans.
what did what did Roberto say the other day? Is like, oh, I love humans, but it's people or
Yeah, something
something
like
like
that.
that.
Yeah, totally. Totally.
Some days, some days.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's true. All right.
Are we doing
Oh,
this?
ready? Mm. Kelsey has
Yeah.
really cool glasses.
I
This is
know.
the glasses gang. I like this.
Me
Yeah.
and Nicole's glasses look remarkably the same, I discovered yesterday.
They do. They do.
Yeah, I this year my eyesight, like, it was like, "Brr," and then this year it's like, "Brr," like, I can't see anything, and so
Yeah.
I think I have to go back again this year and be like, "Things have changed."
It
Yeah.
keeps
Yeah.
happening. And I feel like we're focusing AI on the wrong things. Like every adult will run into this eyesight problem.
Yeah.
And how is this not a solved problem by now?
Totally. It's completely predictable, right?
Yes, it
Yeah.
happens to everybody, even
Yeah.
people who have had LASIK.
Yeah.
I know. Um, Welcome, Kelsey. Welcome
Thank
to
you.
our podcast. We are so excited to have you today. This is Kelsey New. She's with the Mainz Brady group, and continuing our conversation about, I don't know, what the hell is happening in the job market. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us today, because Nicole and I continue to be perplexed and confused about everything. And maybe you're not. Are you perplexed and confused about what's happening?
Every day is different. There's some days where it feels like things have sort of normalized and it's reminiscent of 5 or 8 years ago. And then some days, yeah, it's very confusing. It's a bit of a moving target for sure.
So introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and then maybe tell us about like what that day looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my name's Kelsey. I am with a small boutique recruiting firm called the Mainz Brady Group. And we've been around for 20 something years. I've been with the company for about 15 years. I started in the recruiting side of our business. So, really, really closely, entrenched with candidates in the market. And for the last 8 to 10 years or so, I've been on the account management and sales side. So, working more closely with companies who are hiring and needing help bringing folks on the team. So, a day in the life for a recruiter right now, I would say doesn't look a whole lot different from a like daily goal and perhaps like sequence of events perspective. Recruiters are working on high priority jobs. They are creating postings for new jobs that we've gotten from our clients, posting the job, identifying and calling candidates, having meaningful conversations, and getting those candidates ready to submit to a client or to myself and then the client. So that's a little bit of like rinse and repeat. That tends to be the same flow. However, obviously, over the last few years with AI, things have changed in terms of the tools that we're able to use, kind of the efficiency of some of our processes. And so there's maybe a little bit of a difference in how we structure each one of those kind of sequence of events. But for the most part, the goal is still the same. It's understand a job, find great candidates, and get them prepped for submission.
So you said that like most days sort of look the same, but some days look different. What do those days that look different look like?
I think the days that look different are when we are thrown a bit of a curveball with the types of roles that we're working on for our clients.
Mhm.
There is a little bit of a predictability to technology organizations. Historically, they're always hiring for the same types of roles, kind of in the same flow within the software development lifecycle, because our firm really focuses in technology. But these days, with AI and with new job titles, we might get thrown a title that it seems like it was just invented yesterday by some
Yeah.
team that workshopped it and decided like, hey, let's bring somebody on board that has some super random skill set that has not yet been discovered. So that's what I kind of mean. There's just a little bit of a craziness to jobs and job requirements and titles these days that kind of throw us for a loop sometime.
And, like, those titles, those jobs, those skill sets, like, are they real? Can you, like, find a person that's like, yes, I'm the expert of XYZ, or are they literally fabricated?
That's a great question. I think a lot of the times one company will set the pace on something or start a trend towards something, and then the rest of the companies kind of follow suit. So at the onset, it can be really difficult. We've had a position recently that we wrote up that was called a rehash manager. And that's not a title we've ever heard before. And I'm with a team of folks that have been doing this for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
So then we're sort of trying to figure out, what's a rehash manager? Are other companies hiring rehash managers? Sometimes they feel ultimately like they're a real role. They're just kind of being called something a little bit different
Yeah.
now. And other times, yeah, it requires us to ask a lot of follow-up questions, and that's on us as kind of the account management team to really dig into our clients and our, the hiring teams, and find out, what really is this role? What are they doing day to day? What tools do they need to be familiar with? What's the goal of this position? Um,
It's
so
really
it
hard out
depends.
there for job seekers because those roles are changing so much. And so
Yes.
you used to be able to say, like, I'm a program manager. I am looking for program manager roles. And now you're like, oh, wait, they're calling that AI program manager, or they're calling that, like, now it's AI operations, or it's AI
Yeah.
enablement. And I'm wondering, like, in from where you sit, like, are you all trying to streamline that as you're getting things in and you're going, "Hey, no one's calling this a rehash manager. They're calling it XYZ," or and how are job seekers supposed to navigate that?
Yeah. Well, we definitely have conversations internally when we get a job order from a client where it's got a funky title or there's some strange requirements. We're sort of like little investigators. And
Uh-huh.
honestly, at this point, we will use some sort of chat GPT or Claude to maybe help us really understand what this could mean. Again, we really value having direct partnerships and direct communications with the hiring managers that we support. So a lot of times that conversation will be directly with the hiring manager too. We'll say, what do you really mean by this? This isn't a
What are you
title that we're
trying to
seeing.
do?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is not a title that we're seeing in the market. Help us, kind of let's workshop it and figure out what else this might be, called. And I think
Yeah.
for candidates, it is tough because they're sort of in their own little echo chamber, and not to have a shameless plug, but I do think that there's some value then in working with recruiters who have that inside line to the hiring team and can get some of that extra information and say, all right, this is what they're really saying. Because we're pretty good at looking at a candidate's resume and deciphering, even if the titles aren't the same or things are worded like slightly differently, we're pretty good at deciphering, like, at the end of the day, this person's doing what they need to be doing in this job, and we can help them craft the resume in the right way.
Not to shamelessly plug recruiters either, but it feels like at this moment, like if you're in the job market, you're screaming into the void. Like you cannot actually talk to any humans. And so having a actual human where you can be like, this is me, this is the value of me, and having that representation, I
Yeah,
think is important because it does feel like if you're going it alone, it's very difficult right now.
Well, and
100%. Yeah.
like tools that are out there for job seekers often are indexing on job titles. So if you even like LinkedIn's tool, right? It wants you to put in job titles essentially. And like it doesn't have to be like program manager, but like it's not like tell me tell me your all of the things you could possibly do and let's match it against these roles that have different names. And I that's really limiting because who knows what people are going to be. I mean, forward deployed engineer is a role that is like very common right now, but
Mhm.
I think didn't exist last year.
I
Like,
To be honest, I don't know that I've even ever heard that title.
Yeah,
oh
what is a
So
wow.
respond to me,
forward
Megan.
deploy? Yeah, what's a forward deployed engineer?
So these are okay, I'm gonna mess this up and I'm gonna get like fact checked by our 7 listeners. But my understanding, these are engineers that are like working, like they tend to be more full breadth and they're working like on the product with the definition or like with the client, right? So they're like defining things. They're not just like
Um,
taking and building things. This is a very bad definition, but it's like
Mhm.
I
pretty
see what you're talking about.
common. Yeah.
Yeah, so like in-house, like to me, that would be a principal engineer who is not just taking the tickets and doing the tickets, but like really embedded cross-functionally to figure out what it is that needs to be built. Like, what are the solutions?
They're taking forward deployed and putting it on everything now. So you can be a forward deployed
Interesting.
product manager.
I have to
or
write that
whatever.
down, get my team pipeline into that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, it just speaks to how quickly this changes, you know?
Yeah.
I was also looking for work for some time and realized that like it took me like probably like a while to figure out what the roles were that like would apply to my experience, which my experience was varied and broad, you know? And so
Mhm.
it's like, oh, then you start to hone down. And you're like, oh, there's these new roles that are AI enablement. Okay, some places those are ops roles, some places those are project management roles, you know, and you had to like, I had to really broaden the things that I was looking for because like we don't have a shared vernacular at all. Is that in all your experiences that like when the internet came around and when as mobile rose and responsive rose and things like that, like have you ever seen that like so much churn in definitions?
I'd say early on in my career, maybe 2012, 2013, there were a lot of, and this is maybe not quite the same, but a lot of new tools that were coming on the scene or new languages seemingly every few months. It
Mhm.
was Ruby on Rails. It was, all these new front end frameworks. And then all of a sudden, we haven't really seen roles like that in a couple of years, realistically,
Yeah.
like front end stuff. And now it's all Python and Go. Like, so there's a lot of churn in historically, a lot of churn in languages that people are using.
Yeah.
Titles, not so much. It was very consistent for a long time. You knew exactly what you were doing with that particular title. And the only variance we would really see is maybe regionally,
Mm.
geographically. There's a lot of like producers down in, let's say, Los Angeles, kind of California as a whole, but Oregon and Portland weren't using the term producer for
Right.
much of anything. So there was some difference between locations, but for the most part, titles had been very consistent for a really long time. And now it's just the Wild West. People are making up titles all the time.
Yeah.
So our goal with this podcast series is to like empower our job seeker community because like Nicole said, it definitely feels like screaming into the void and it can be really I think it's like affects morale. Like, I mean, obviously, right? It can be very
Yeah.
depressing when you're like doing all of this stuff and like
Yeah.
getting nothing back from the universe at all. What like what do you think job seekers don't understand or like the biggest misconceptions that people have about what recruiters are doing with their application because they're dealing with internal recruiters and recruiting folks like you what are they getting wrong?
So I do think it's still and has always been, honestly, really important to be tailoring your resume. I do think that that can be a big task, especially for somebody who has had a pretty deep background, a lot of experience. So definitely having a big kind of super resume that has everything in there and tailoring it down each time for a position that you're applying to is still really, really important. That's kind of always been the case. It will continue to be the case, especially in this market. I do think a misconception that candidates may have about recruiters is that maybe we take resumes and just blast them out to everywhere. We're blasting them to all of our clients, all of the companies that we have connections to, and just sort of doing it willy nilly. For a smaller boutique firm like ours, that's really not the case. We are really like every submission is very intentional. We take the relationship really seriously and we want it to be a great fit. So when we're working with a candidate, we really are just, submitting them to the positions that we think they are genuinely a great fit for. There are also a lot of agencies that will take candidates' resumes and submit them without any kind of conversation or permission. There's probably a misconception there too that all agencies do that. That's also not necessarily the case. If you work with a great agency, like there will be a conversation over the phone or like this There will be a right to represent that's provided, exchanged.
Wait, hold on. So I interrupted you because I don't understand that. So some recruiters will like find a resume and reach out
Just
to the
submit it.
company and submit it, and
Yes.
then when they get a bite, go back to the candidate.
Yes. And say, hey, this company is really interested in your background. They want to set up an interview. But
Oh,
really what
that
they've done
seems
is just found
gross.
a resume online that looks great. They don't know if that person is a real candidate or if it's a real resume with authentic, skills and experiences. Um, I
That's
do, yeah.
that's
Unfortunately, that happens
annoying
a lot.
because there are so many candidates looking,
Yeah.
real candidates that are looking. Like, it is not hard to find qualified people who you could work with, I would
Right.
think.
And that really just adds to kind of it muddies the waters for a lot of companies. Companies then get instantly inundated with resumes, and maybe half of them are candidates that have not even been spoken to about the position. So I think it's really important to work with, if you're open to working with recruiters, work with people, one or two people that you actually know and trust. You know the relationships that they have with the companies in town or nationally, because otherwise, yeah, you're sort of you're sort of susceptible to a lot of bad recruiting firms that don't have good practices and best policies in place. So
Can you talk a little bit about these muddy waters that you mentioned? Like, what from the recruiting and from you talk to a lot of hiring managers, like what is the experience like now that candidates can like use AI in lots of different ways? I mean, it's this like arms race on both sides, I think, right? Where
yeah,
like you're having to use AI to filter resumes because there's so many of them, but because there's so many of them, people are using AI more. Like what is the landscape like?
yeah, it's complicated. And I think it's challenging for both parties, or maybe all three parties involved, whether it's the client and the hiring team, or the internal recruiter or recruiting agency, and the candidate. With AI, there's certainly a bunch of fake resumes. There are candidates that don't actually exist, or there are people that are trying to pose as this, type of engineer or this type of professional. They have completely, had ChatGPT work their resume to a point where it's not accurate or authentic at all. Uh, there are so many people who have now like automated systems where they are just auto applying to every job. So unfortunately for companies, they're getting blasted with 1,000 applicants, in the first 12 hours of a position being open. And in the very beginning of this unfortunate, sort of place that we're in right now, I think a lot of companies were like, wow, this is great. We have so many candidates. We don't even need our recruiting team. We don't need external agency recruiters. The market is so hot. We've got the pick of the litter, right? And I think that has sort of finally started to crumble a little bit. I think companies are realizing like, oh, wow, okay, this is actually a bigger problem, a bigger challenge than we had realized. It takes so much time and energy and effort and professionals to go through 100 applicants and find out who's real and who's fake. So it's the excitement of having so many candidates in the market is starting to wear off for sure. And I think companies are realizing now they do need real humans, real human recruiters that are vetting candidates. And I'm hopeful that this means there's a little bit of a sea change happening with candidates too, and real candidates getting the attention and the interviews that they deserve.
It feels like this happens with AI a lot. And Nicole and I talk about this where
Yeah.
there's this like messy time where everyone's like, ooh, technology. And they're like throwing it at everything. We don't need recruiters because we have like AI recruiters or whatever. And then you're like, wait a second.
And they
Yeah.
get burned. I mean, I think
Yeah.
unfortunately that's what has to happen is any company or hiring team, they have to experience a little pain. They have to be burned by a deep fake interview or fake resumes where at the end of the day, the candidate didn't even show up or wasn't who they said they were going to be. You have to kind of go through that process. It's like having a teenager, they have to sometimes make their own mistakes. You can tell them all day long, like, that's not a good idea. You're going to regret this. But, they have to kind of figure it out for themselves. And that's really where we feel we are with a lot of our clients right now is they are kind of coming to a point where they're like, wow, I've been really burned by this. I can't do it anymore. It's, tiring out my team to go through these cycles. And so they're sort of getting back to a spot where they know that they need to partner with agencies and kind of take that experience with the candidates a little bit more seriously.
Yes. So, one thing I've heard from folks is that all the jobs you see online are fake. Like not real jobs. They're just fake postings.
Yeah.
What do you think that is all about?
I I do think that there's so much uncertainty in the market in general right now. And people are having to do more with less. They're having to work harder with fewer resources. And it kind of contributes ultimately to a lack of clarity and lack of direction within hiring teams. You don't know if you're going to have the budget. You don't know if you need, humans to do the job or maybe AI is going to do the job. So I think there's a lot of like putting out, potential jobs that they think they might need, but then there's so much uncertainty within the team ultimately that then there's really no movement. There's no urgency around it because companies they're still trying to figure out if they need to hire one person or five people or just build, an AI agent to do the job. So I do think there's ghost jobs for sure. I think some companies post things and just never take them down. There's a lot of
Mm,
that. Might be
mm-hmm.
filled or it might have been, budget was cut and they just never kind of clean up their workspace.
Kelsey's making me more empathetic to the companies that are posting these roles because they are also muddling through like not being sure. I get
Right.
confused mostly about the ones that just get reposted.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, and if you've been in the market for a minute, at first you're like, ooh, cool. And then like 4 weeks later, you're like, wait a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't understand that. I don't understand if they're like trying to harvest. I don't actually, maybe you do. Why would a company be harvesting resumes? Why? What's the like to what end?
Yeah, I think, I've got my theories.
Yeah.
It's
We like
different with
theories.
every company, right? But I
Yeah.
do think that a lot of larger companies do just want to collect resumes of potential candidates to build up their database so that when they do have an open role, they don't need to go out into the job boards or partner with an agency. They've already built up a database full of however many thousands of candidates that their
Huh.
internal team can just then go call on.
Mm,
It's data. It's having access to candidates, even if they don't have a job for them right then. They may have a role open at a later date. And so I do think it's a matter of kind of collecting, building up a database, and getting as many people into their sort of CRM as they can.
Huh.
Because especially right now, when so many people are applying
Yeah.
to every job out there.
But then
Um,
you would think that someone would be like, wow, I got a call from this massive company like a year after I submitted because I was a good fit. And I don't know if I've heard that. Have you all heard that, Nicole?
I don't, yeah, I mean, I just can tell you based off of my own inbox, right? Like 2021, 2022, even into 2023, recruiters would reach out to me all the time. And
mhm,
I was not open to recruiters, not looking for a job. And I would get like emails saying, hey, we think you're a good fit. Will you have a conversation with
Mm.
us?
wow.
And 2026, no, just zero.
Yeah.
So,
They've
yeah.
There's
collected your resume, most likely. They just
where
haven't called yet.
Mm-hmm.
which version of my resume? That's
Yeah,
the
right.
question.
Yeah.
The best one? Version 25 or version 4?
25.
I
Yeah.
mean, let's be honest. Um, y you Nicole kind of alluded to this, like, when you're talking about, like, being inundated with resumes in the first, like, week or whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a certain amount of timing and luck that is going into today's market. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to say. It really depends on like the size of the company. But I do think in this market, you have to, aside from timing and luck, you have to have not only the requirements, but also the nice to haves, right? That's kind of one big thing I think that we've seen shift over the last year or two. A couple years ago, you could have most of the requirements and you were a very competitive candidate. We would submit you all day long. You'd be getting calls. Now, I think, unfortunately, the expectation is that there is the perfect candidate out there. There is a candidate that has every single one of the requirements and also all of the nice to haves. And companies are waiting for that. And they think that they can wait for that, again, because there's no real urgency to hire. It seems that, a lot of clients have all the time in the world to make the decision on who they want to bring on board. They're willing to work on something for 6 months before they fill it.
Oh,
But they're
wow.
looking for folks that have every single thing on the job description. And, we do a lot of sort of right sizing. We try to do a lot of right sizing with our clients and working with them to say, hey, this person may exist out there, but how long are you willing to look for it? And if that's the case, if they're willing to spend a year looking for this perfect person, then for us as a small agency, that's not something that we think is real, right? We wouldn't necessarily, that wouldn't be a hot job order for us.
A year.
Yeah, totally.
If they're like, oh, we'll fill it in, it's okay if we don't fill it for 12 months. Like that's, and so I do think you've got to have all the requirements. You've got to do your best to have some, or, be close on the nice to haves. And really applying online is just part of the equation and part of the timing piece. You also have to sort of have some kind of internal referral, somebody that on the inside who's pushing your resume in front of the right eyeballs. You've got to be connecting to folks at that company. You've got to be a little extra in this market. So
Yeah.
yes, it's timing and luck, but it's all those other things too.
Having just earlier this year, I hired a couple folks, and they both are people that I've worked with in the past. And because they reached out and like, hey, I saw your job posting. It's just a lot less risky to hire someone that like because of experience is a good fit. One thing that I really want you to tell people, I'm telling you what to say now, is that the blindly applying for any job that you even maybe remotely would take is not a good strategy. Please tell people they're wasting their time.
Correct. I would concur. I think a lot of folks almost need to go through the pain of that first. There's a lot of fear in people when they've, find themselves out of a job and they haven't had to find a job for 5 or 10 or 15 years. So I get it. I get the urge to just say, I'm going to just mass apply to everything and hope something works, right? It's a numbers game. Go through that cycle, sure, but it will burn you out. And I don't think that it will be as fruitful as finding very highly aligned roles for you, spending the time to tailor your resume to it, spending the time to get to know somebody who works at that company or ask for an introduction, make it intentional. That's still really, really important, to not just spin your wheels on random applications.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think because if you are like of a certain experience level or of a certain age, like there was a time where it was like, yeah, go for that role that might be just a little out of reach and you don't have all the things. Like, yes, apply. And so you start that way. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go, and then you don't hear back from anybody, and you do have to kind of niche down, which feels very scary because you're like, well, I would do that role too.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I wouldn't ever tell someone don't apply to positions that might be a stretch for you, but you've got to really be good at telling a compelling story on your resume. If you're going to go for a role that's a bit of a stretch in either direction, right? Maybe it's a stretch up. Maybe you're a director, but you're looking to do something that's more hands-on, more individual contributor.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say don't apply to those things, but you've got to put in the effort and the energy to craft a resume that's going to make sense for the people who see it when they pull it up in their CRM. So you can't just send the same resume to a bunch of different roles. You've really got to be intentional about it.
Well, and you can't spend the time doing all those things for all of those roles. Like, you
No.
Right.
literally cannot. So it's like once you get to the point where you realize, like, I have to hit the ground on these roles, then you almost have to be like, okay, I can't hit the ground on every single one of these. I have to start being like, oh, this one sounds really cool. I am going to like dig and find a person to talk to, and I'm going to send a
Yeah.
cold email, and I'm going to like, like
Yeah.
you can't do it across the millions of job applications that you see.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a lot of candidates who have just burnt themselves out doing that. And they say, oh, well, it's, I guess I'm just never going to work again. I've applied to however many positions. And it breaks my heart to hear that, from folks. But I think if you just slow down a little bit, you don't let your kind of fear response kick in, it will be a slightly better experience ultimately.
Nicole, have you ever heard someone say they're unhireable?
Yes, I have 100%. I have
Yeah.
heard that from folks. It's not true. You are hireable. It's heartbreaking because these
Yeah.
folks were employed. They have been employed up until this point,
Yes.
and it's just so hard. The pendulum has swung so far. You see posts on LinkedIn like, I've been out of work for 2 years. I'm
Yeah.
gonna drive a school bus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and these people were just employed. And so I'm wondering from your perspective, it seemed like there were salad days before where it seemed like we had an abundance of roles and jobs and opportunity. And now it's just like it's completely flipped. Do you ever see it going back to where it's more of a candidate market?
It would be really hard for me to stay in this industry if I didn't believe it would swing back the other way. It is a pendulum, right? It can't be stuck over here forever. It's going to have to kind of come back to some semblance of a more, normal, balanced market.
Yeah.
I do see it. I do see it swinging back at some point, because also with all of this AI kind of buzz and the confusion and, this lack of clarity around all of it, once all of that sort of fizzles out, there will be a clear path forward for both companies, hiring teams, and candidates. It's going to probably be a little uncomfortable like this for a little bit.
Yeah, I'm so ready for that. I mean, even for working folks who are trying to figure out AI just for their roles and how things are gonna, to your point, like level out, hopefully,
Yeah.
And it's a very uncomfortable spot for everybody to be in right now.
Yeah, I
Across the
agree.
board, no matter what you're trying to do, get a job,
Yeah.
keep a job,
Hiring is
hire.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think the challenge we have a lot of the time too is that when the market's like that, when there's this perceived like oversaturation of candidates, and companies can pick from whoever they want, and they can find the most perfect, shiny gold star, candidate no matter what. Unfortunately, the candidate experience goes completely out the window in these
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
There's no follow-up, there isn't helpful feedback, there is no regard for the time and energy and effort that someone might have put in to an interview loop. Sometimes with tech folks, they're doing big technical challenges, or marketing people are putting together briefs, sample briefs for the potential client. And a lot of times they just do the work and spend the time, and they never hear anything back from anyone.
Nothing.
And
Mhm.
that is, I think that's that's like a humanity problem.
Yeah, it's inhumane. It's absolutely
Yeah.
inhumane. And like just the amount of rounds people are going through multiple time. It's like it is dehumanizing, and it's just degrading sometimes to have to
Yeah.
sell yourself over and over and over again in all these conversations, like hiring manager, panel interview,
Yeah.
portfolio review, technical,
Do the task, working
the task.
day. I was
Yeah.
talking to one company that like the last step was a 6-hour working day. It was paid, so like cool. But at this point, that for that particular role, it was like 2 interviews, a task that you had to do that was intense and fun, but was intense, and then a 6-hour working day. It's like, how much do you need to know about me? Like, I'm giving you everything.
Yeah.
And I still might not get that job.
And you might not get that job.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're compensating. Like, I certainly have done this in my career in the past where I've had to do like projects or whatever and I
Yeah.
didn't get compensated. So I am seeing more like this will be compensated. So I guess at
That's
the end of the
good.
day, you might end up with,
That's some
$600
money.
or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Um,
really, when the market's different like that, people really care about the candidate experience. They care about the reputation
Yeah.
of the company. And right now, over the last year or
It like
so,
doesn't matter because you have
doesn't
no,
matter.
Like,
you have all the options.
you have all the people, all the
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
You have unlimited options for
Yep.
talent, and so
You
it
just go
doesn't
dip
matter how
back
you
into
act.
the, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
people are desperate. People are in
Yeah.
desperate places.
Okay. I have like, are there jobs, Kelsey?
Yes, there are jobs.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. And I will say, over the last maybe quarter or so, I think in our world at least, we're a smaller company. We are pretty focused on the type of positions we work on. But I think that there's been an uptick in companies hiring for real jobs who want real people and are serious about making the hiring decision. So,
Nice.
yes.
That's good
Yeah.
because sometimes you feel like, I mean, Nicole and I have been looking at the tech market in Portland for 3 years now, essentially,
Mhm.
and like cannot make sense of it because job numbers seem great overall, I guess. But like tech jobs are changing and it's like, are there actual jobs? Are there jobs? And then you hear from people that like, no, there are jobs. But so it's
Yeah.
good to hear you say there are jobs. It's harder to get through.
Yep. Yeah. And I think, speaking about Portland specifically, Portland's in a tough spot. I think, we've
Mhm.
all lived here for a long time. There aren't a ton of companies in Portland specifically who are booming, who are looking to add to their team right now, who are serious about, growing a couple new squads. Like that's not what we're seeing. Those are the days of 2014, 15, 16 through 18, maybe.
It was so nice. It was so
was so
nice. It was
fun.
such a lovely time.
It
Oh,
was
we were
great.
downtown. We were having lunch. We were all
Yeah.
employed. It was
Yeah.
amazing. Let's go
Yeah,
back.
that was, we're as an agency, we're very nostalgic for that time when Portland was kind of a tech hub. So it is hard right now, specifically in Portland. But I will say, what happens in these kind of down markets and what happens when tech has these big wholesale changes, which has happened over the last couple of years, is people do become entrepreneurs and they start
Mhm.
building something new. And it takes a little time for them to, uh, get money, become funded, have, actual profit and be in a spot where they can bring new people on board and pay them a competitive salary. So I am seeing sort of an uptick in those types of newer companies based here in Portland. They're maybe remote friendly, but they'll have an office here, somewhere in the Portland metro area, and they're looking to hire. And it's kind of the first time that they've been public about hiring. So, maybe not the big companies in Portland, the Nikes and the Intels aren't really, going on all cylinders or whatever that is, but they
Yeah.
will. Those companies will come back. They always do. But the small companies, we're seeing some increased growth from those
Shout
types
out
of.
to the startup community, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Those are a lot of our AI Portland homies. And, Nicole and I have talked about how it seems like it's much easier for a one person person with an idea to use AI tools to like create a whole business. That is easier than a 1,200 person organization trying to figure out how to leverage AI. And
Yes.
so I do have a lot of hope for like a
too.
renaissance of small businesses in Portland because we have like that kind of perfect storm of like unemployment in the tech, highly skilled tech workers who also want to make things and are making
Yeah.
things. So like maybe
Yeah.
we will see that and that will be very cool.
For
Yes.
sure.
I
For
love
sure.
that.
And what's interesting too about these newer companies is, well, in any company, but in terms of AI, it's not as if every single company believes that AI is going to replace everything that they do within that company and they will never need another human again. But there are also aren't companies who are just sticking their head completely in the sand and saying, we will never use any AI tools in this company. Everything's blocked, right? There's kind of this happy medium that I'm seeing where it's smaller companies that are starting to grow their teams and they want to bring folks on board who are comfortable and well-versed in utilizing some really powerful AI tools, but it's not going to, replace everything. It's just kind of
Mhm.
augmenting what they're building. And that, in my opinion, is kind of the perfect place to be, right? It's still hiring humans that are highly skilled and who ultimately understand the code or understand the process, but they've been able to sort of become more efficient and be more creative, maybe in using AI tools.
Yes. That is the dream. That is the
This
dream.
this is
Yes.
the dream. Yeah.
Yes.
If let's wrap with like one piece of advice for job seekers out
Mm.
there. I know.
One piece.
I mean, if you have more than one, like
Yeah. Oh, I have so much advice.
give it.
Um, I think one of the most important things, oh gosh, there's so many. Okay. One of the most important things is don't forget to nurture your network throughout your entire career, whether you are employed or unemployed.
Preach.
Uh, yes. So, there was like a Girl Scouts song from forever, many, many moons ago that was make new friends, but keep the old.
Oh my gosh, I know that
One is
song.
silver and the other is gold. So, that's essentially the idea. Continue to make new friends, continue to foster relationships with people on your team, keep your old friends. You've got to water that garden too, because when you do find yourself out of a job, it is really, really important that you can go to your network and start reconnecting with people and saying, hey, this is the situation that I'm in. Can I grab you a cup of coffee? Do you know this person? Do you know anything about this company? You've got to really be able to rely on your community and your network.
We
But
see
a lot
that
of people,
we
yeah,
see that all the time. When people are looking for work, they come to AI Portland events. We see them around town. They're hot and heavy, and then they get a role and you never see them
yeah,
again,
yeah.
right?
Stay,
And
stay involved, stay
yeah,
connected. You will need these people. You will need to be able to call on someone. And it is very common for people to get a job and then 10 years later they haven't spoken to anyone that they worked with,
Yeah.
previously. So that's a really big one. I think the second thing is to keep kind of a running list of all of the things that you've accomplished, all of the tools that you've learned, all of the skills you've gained, problems you've solved. you know, it feels like a lot of work, but if you kind of do it each time you maybe accomplish something new or you build something new at work, whatever it is, put that onto your resume. And it can be kind of chicken scratch. It doesn't have to be perfectly worded in that moment, but just track your successes. And I think ultimately then writing a resume and a cover letter and sort of talking about yourself when you need to go find a new job is much
It's way
easier if
easier.
you've got all the information sort of right there.
Megan and I were literally just talking about how hard it is to remember when you need to remember.
Yes,
You just kind of forget. Sometimes it's even easier to remember what someone else did and
totally.
less what you did. So that's really good advice.
Yeah, keeping a little folder too of like shout outs or kudos you've gotten
Wins.
from
Yeah.
people. Yeah, wins. If you're in any kind of like customer service or relationship management role, just don't forget to keep a little pile of those wins. Yeah, somewhere that's easily accessed.
It's like always be selling, but not but like always be networking.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
But I mean, I do think you have to find like the level doesn't have to be as high as it is when you are looking for work that is very intense and like you are, if you're hitting the ground hard, like it's a lot, but maybe you ratchet it down like 50% and you're like reaching out to someone different every month and like, like
Yeah.
develop some sort of schedule around that so you can keep your network warm and then you're
Totally.
available to help other people
Right.
and you can hear what's going on with them, which is also a really good thing to do.
Yeah, definitely. I share with candidates all the time sort of the importance of putting together some sort of like goals for yourself when you're out there looking for a job. On a Monday, write down or collect 20 names of people on LinkedIn, and some of them should be new, some of them should be people you've known forever, but get into a cadence of reaching out to new people and former colleagues or old friends every single week. Just start building that into your day. Um,
People are open to that. Just
Mhm.
recently I had a chat with just like someone who was like our account manager at a vendor.
Yeah.
And I chatted with her and we had a great conversation, just talking shop and like there was no, agenda to it. It just was like, let's connect. I really like thought you were cool and like such a
Right.
professional. What's happening in your career? What cool things are you working on? It doesn't have to be like, oh, great, I'm, need a favor or need help finding a job. Just make sure you're keeping those leads warm. And at the
Yeah.
very least, you might have an interesting conversation about whatever it is,
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, I also think I love the idea of like setting a plan, like giving yourself goals, like, 3 cold outreach, 2 warm outreach, or whatever. I've also found it nice to like almost think about your job search in a series of like sprints. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm going to do this strategy, which I'm going to like hone in on all the people that I know, and I'm going to really focus in on communication with my network. Or for the next 3 weeks, like this strategy is what I'm going to use on my resume, or I'm going to try this new process or this new tool. And then after that period of time, you can like, okay, how did that go?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little
Yeah.
breath. Was that the right thing? Did it feel good? And it at least, like, all these things are giving some constraints around something that is scary and nebulous and like feels very out of your control.
Right. Right. And remembering that, like, setting a goal like that, whether it's, I'm going to formulate my resume like this for this week, or I'm going to reach out to 10 people that I don't know, but setting goals and then being able to achieve them when you are, maybe unemployed, that feels good. That's a good dopamine hit for you. Those are things that will keep you sane throughout the process instead of just going each week, sort of uh, with no direction and no sense of accomplishment in the process
Mhm.
at all. That's when it is really draining, and you get a lot of sort of um, you feel pretty unmotivated. But if you're setting some goals that are achievable, maybe they're a
You're
little bit
like,
of a
I
stretch
did
goal.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah. Also, it gives you
you'll feel
great
better.
data at the end where you're
For
like,
sure.
I talked to 400 people or
Totally.
whatever.
Totally.
Megan, how
Hopefully
many
it's
people did you talk to when you were looking?
I don't have that data offhand, but I think
Yeah.
it was at least 50. And
Hey, whatever it
six.
takes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I mean, I like talking to people, but even as a person who likes talking to people, it's just like, oh, okay, I'm still
Yeah.
talking to people.
Yeah. You got to hydrate.
Um,
No.
yeah, that's the final advice.
Yeah.
Stay
Hydrate.
hydrated.
Stay hydrated. It's been a hot summer.
I love that. Drink water.
Drink water.
Drink
I
water,
love
deep
it.
breaths, call a friend,
Yeah. Come to
Yeah.
AI Portland.
Come to
We'll
AI
talk
Mhm.
to you.
Portland. Yeah. Call a recruiter. We'll always talk to people. So
Yeah, that's great. Thank you again for listening to this episode of Supercharged by AI. Subscribe to get all the latest episodes and check us out at aipdx.info for more information.